Thank you for joining me today as we talk about who or what the Antichrist is. Many of us have been taught that the book of Revelation is all about the Antichrist and his activity in the world during the end days. Talk of the Antichrist brings to mind an evil ruler, potentially alive today, possessed by Satan, who will soon take control of the world by establishing a one-world government, a united economic system, and a false religious system. It might surprise you to know that the word Antichrist is never even mentioned in Revelation, nor is it mentioned in the book of Daniel. And the image of the Antichrist that I've just highlighted is not biblical. Rather, it has been popularized by modern movies and literature. The word Antichrist is only found in 4 passages of the Bible, all 4 in 1 and 2 John. Firstly, we have 1 John chapter 4, verses 1 to 3. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 2:2 says, "Who is a liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? He is the Antichrist who denies the Father and the Son." John adds to our understanding in 1 John 2:18 by telling us that this is the last hour, and as you have heard that Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have appeared. This is how we know it is the last. Remember, last hour refers to the end of the age, not the end of the world. If you haven't watched it already, you might like to check out my video, End Times, Last Days, to find out more about this. John tells us that true prophets and teachers will confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. The false will deny this and deny that Jesus is from God. According to John, the Antichrist is a spirit, or that which has a spirit, that does not confess that Jesus has come in the flesh, or that Jesus is from God. Let me repeat that. The Antichrist is a spirit, or that which has a spirit, that does not confess that Jesus has come in the flesh, or that Jesus is from God. John is clearly telling us this. As well, John says that the spirit of Antichrist was already in the world when John was alive in the 1st century AD. He tells us even now in this 1st century, many Antichrists have appeared. The final scripture where Antichrist is mentioned is 2 John chapter 1 verse 7, which says that many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the Antichrist. You can't get much clearer than that. What you have during the 1st century, the time of the 1st century, is a cult called Gnosticism. Gnosticism taught that the spirit is good, but that the physical and emotional realms were evil. And therefore they did not believe that Jesus came to earth in a physical body, only as a spirit being. This is a heresy because it denies the shedding of Jesus' blood for the remission of sins. And John is writing his first letter, 1 John, in response to this heresy. The book of 1 John starts off with statements like, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, and which we have looked at and our hands have touched. He writes as an eyewitness to prove that Jesus came in the flesh. And he states really clearly in 1 and 2 John that any person who denies that Jesus came in the flesh, which is what the Gnostics of the 1st century were teaching, is operating in the spirit of Antichrist. In other words, the Antichrist isn't a person, but a belief system. I should mention something about the verse in 1 John 2:18, and that is that certain Bible translations have inserted the word "the" in this verse. This word "the" is not found in the Greek. In certain versions, the word "the" is inserted before the word Antichrist, making it a proper noun and requiring them to capitalise the word Antichrist. So you get what my NIV says, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming. Instead of what is a correct translation, as you have heard Antichrist, in other words, false Gnostic teaching referenced in Matthew 24 is coming, not a one-world ruler. The second part of this verse in 1 John 2:18 reinforces this correct translation. Even now many antichrists have come. In other words, even now many false teachings have come. And the verse finishes with this, saying, "This is how we know it is the last hour." Another reference to Matthew chapter 24, where Jesus prophesied that one sign of the coming destruction of Jerusalem would be false teachers. I'd just like to add too that Jesus is the fulfillment of Daniel 9, and that there is no Antichrist in this passage either. And I'll talk more about this in my messages on Daniel. The Antichrist is not and never was a person. It is a spiritual system of false teaching, specifically Gnosticism. As I finish this section, I'd just like to add too that there are those who would argue that the beast mentioned in Revelation, in the book of Revelation, and the Antichrist are one and the same. It's what I used to think too. But the reality is that nowhere in Revelation is the beast ever called the Antichrist. This is simply not true. And to find out more about this, check out my video, The Beasts of Revelation.